The sun was just starting to set behind the tall pine trees when I heard shouting near my driveway. I rushed outside and saw two HOA guards blocking the entrance, their hands gripping the arms of a woman I knew too well, my guest, Olivia. She tried to pull her wrist free, her voice calm but sharp. "Let go of me, I was invited here." One guard shoved her back and said, "You don't belong in this neighborhood. Visitors need approval." I felt my blood boil. "She's here because I asked her to be," I said, stepping closer. But the guard didn't move. Instead, he pulled out a clipboard like it was a weapon and pointed at my house. "You've broken 3 HOA rules this week. We can remove your guests if we want." My neighbors peeked from their windows, phones recording, but no one daring to step in. Olivia's bracelet was snapped, her palm scraped from when they dragged her. Still, she stood straight, eyes cold. "Touch me again and you'll regret it." The guard laughed. "What are you gonna do? Call the cops? We are the authority here." My fists clenched, but I remembered what she told me earlier. Stay calm, no matter what happens. I swallowed my anger and said quietly, "Let her go. This is my land." The guard smirked. "Not for long. The HOA is reviewing your residency. You might want to pack." A silence fell. Olivia looked at me and whispered, just loud enough for them to hear, "They really don't know who I am." But they didn't listen. Instead, one of them pushed her again, harder this time. And that's when she stopped smiling. She looked straight into his eyes and said, "You just assaulted the district attorney of this county." The guard's face went pale, but it was too late. My phone was already recording, and every neighbor's camera was pointed right at them. The guard's hand froze midair. For a second, no one spoke. The other guard stepped back, his voice shaking. "You're lying. HOA has authority here, not you." Olivia didn't argue. She just held up her bruised wrist and said softly, "Keep talking. Everything is being recorded." I saw the shift in their eyes, fear mixed with stubborn pride. But instead of apologizing, they doubled down. The lead guard pulled out his radio and said, "Call Karen. Tell her we've got a situation." Within minutes, Karen, the HOA president, stormed toward us in her floral dress and fake confidence. Her lips curled as she looked at me. "You again? First you install security cameras without approval, now you bring unauthorized people here?" She turned to Olivia with a cold smile. "Ma'am, this is a private community. You need to leave before we press charges." Olivia didn't step back. "Press them then. I'd love to see how far you want to take this." Karen scoffed. "Don't test me. I know the sheriff personally." I could see neighbors gathering on sidewalks now, whispering. Some looked worried, others excited, like this was entertainment. Karen pointed at my front porch. "Your property is under violation review. You might lose your rights to live here." I stepped forward. "This land is paid in full. You can't take it." She grinned. "Watch me." Then I saw something change in Olivia. She looked calm, but almost deadly calm. She pulled a small badge case from her coat and opened it slowly. The gold emblem caught the streetlight. "Olivia Hayes, district attorney for this county," she said. "And you just ordered your guards to assault a government official?" Karen's smile died. The guards stepped away like the ground under them shifted. One whispered, "She's serious." Karen tried to recover. "This doesn't change anything. HOA has its own rules." Olivia looked at her and replied, "Rules don't override the law." The tension felt like it could break the air itself. And then, Karen, desperate, said the wrong thing. "Get her off this property, now!" The guards hesitated, but fear of Karen's wrath pushed them forward. That's when Olivia leaned to me and murmured, "Stay still. Let them make their last mistake." The guards stepped toward Olivia again, slower this time, like they knew they were walking into fire but couldn't back out. I wanted to stop them, but she gave me a small nod, like she already knew how this would end. One of the guards grabbed her arm, not as rough as before, but still enough to show he hadn't learned. Olivia didn't fight back. She just glanced at my phone recording and said, loud enough for the neighbors to hear, "This is your second assault on a district attorney. Keep going." The whispers around us grew louder. I could see curtains moving, cameras zooming in. Karen's voice cracked as she barked, "Remove her! I'll handle the consequences." The guard tried to pull Olivia away, but before he could take another step, a black SUV with tinted windows rolled up to the curb. It stopped without a sound. The door opened, and a man in a dark suit stepped out. He looked at Olivia first, then at the guards holding her. "Ma'am, are you all right?" he asked. Olivia smiled slightly. "You're late." Karen crossed her arms. "And who are you supposed to be?" The man turned, flashing a badge. "Investigator Lewis, County Attorney's Office. I got a call about an assault on a public official." Karen's face went blank. "This is a misunderstanding," she said quickly, stepping forward. "She trespassed and we were protecting the neighborhood." Lewis looked at Olivia, then me, then the guards. "Is that true?" he asked. I shook my head. She was invited. They dragged her before she even reached the door. The guard who grabbed Olivia tried to defend himself. "We were following HOA regulations." Lewis cut him off. "HOA regulations don't override state law." His voice was calm, but sharp, the kind that didn't need to be loud to be dangerous. Karen tried again, her tone softer but desperate. "Look, we can settle this. No need to involve law enforcement." Olivia stepped closer to her and said quietly, "You involved law enforcement the minute you laid hands on me and pretended to have authority." Karen blinked fast, like she was searching for one last excuse. But then Lewis turned to Olivia and asked, "Do you want to press charges?" Every neighbor seemed to stop breathing. Olivia didn't answer right away. She looked at Karen, then at my house, then at the crowd recording all of this. Finally, she said, "Not yet. Some people deserve a chance to tell the truth before the handcuffs come on." Karen swallowed. What do you want?" Olivia didn't smile. "We start with the HOA meeting. Tonight." Karen hesitated, clutching her folder like it was a shield. "Tonight? That's not how this works. There's a process," she stammered. Olivia stepped closer, her voice low but steady. "Your guards assaulted a government official. You threatened to take someone's property without legal grounds. Either we talk in that clubhouse tonight, in front of everyone, or we talk in court tomorrow morning." Karen looked around and saw her neighbors watching, phones still recording. Her fake confidence cracked. "Fine," she muttered. 30 minutes, HOA clubhouse." As she walked off, whispering frantically into her phone, the guards followed, pale and silent. The crowd slowly scattered, but the tension didn't fade. I turned to Olivia. "Are you sure about this?" She rubbed her wrist where the skin was red. "I'm tired of people like her thinking they own everything, especially people." Her voice was softer now, but there was something hidden underneath, like this wasn't the first time she'd faced something like this. Investigator Lewis nodded. "I'll be here if things go south." Olivia looked at me and said, "No matter what happens in there, don't react first. Let them show who they really are." The clubhouse lights were already on when we got there. Karen stood at the front with her board members beside her, whispering nervously. A few neighbors filled the chairs, some curious, some angry, some guilty for never speaking up before. At the center table, a thick binder with "community violations" written on it lay open, my name circled in red. Karen forced a smile as we walked in. "Let's make this quick," she said coldly. Olivia sat down calmly. "Good, then let's start with the footage." A hush fell. Olivia placed her phone on the table and pressed play. The room filled with the sound of her being grabbed, her bracelet snapping, Karen saying, "You might lose your rights to live here." Gasps came from the back row. One board member whispered, "Karen, this looks bad." Karen's jaw tightened. "This doesn't prove anything. HOA rules were violated." Olivia leaned forward. "Even if that were true, nothing gives you the right to use force or impersonate legal authority." Karen slammed her hand on the table. "This is a private community. We make the rules." Before Olivia could reply, a voice from the back spoke up, a quiet, older man who rarely talked. "Actually, no you don't." Every head turned. He stood slowly, pulling a document from his coat. "Because I'm the original landowner of this neighborhood. And I never signed over full authority to the HOA. The room fell silent. Karen's face went white. Olivia looked at him with surprise. He nodded slightly. It's time they know the truth. The room went so silent you could hear the clock ticking on the wall. Karen stared at the old man like he had spoken in another language. "What do you mean you never gave authority to the HOA?" she asked, her voice shaky. He laid the document on the table. "This land used to be mine. When I sold it to the developer, I kept partial ownership of the bylaws. HOA can only enforce rules with written approval from the land trustee." He looked right at Karen. "That trustee is me, and I never approved half the rules you've been forcing on people." A murmur rose from the neighbors. Someone whispered, "Is this real?" Olivia slid the papers closer and scanned them, her brows lifting slightly. "He's right," she said. Karen stepped back like the floor tilted under her. No, this isn't legal. You can't just show up and—" The old man cut her off quietly. "I tried to stop you years ago, Karen. You said I was just an old man trying to cause trouble." His eyes were steady. "Tonight, I'm done watching you ruin people's lives." Karen's lips trembled, but anger rushed in to cover the fear. "This doesn't change anything. He's not a lawyer. He's not." Olivia stood up. "But I am. And now that we know the HOA has been operating beyond its legal power, everything you did tonight counts as harassment, assault, and abuse of authority." Karen's board members exchanged nervous glances. One of them whispered to another, "We're in trouble." Then came the twist none of us expected. Karen straightened her back and said, "Fine, if you want a war, you'll get one." She snapped her fingers and the clubhouse doors opened. Two men in uniforms walked in, badges on their belts, but something about them looked off. "These officers will escort you all out and shut this meeting down," Karen said. The neighbors gasped. I felt my chest tighten. Olivia didn't flinch. She stared at the men and asked calmly, "Which department are you from?" They didn't answer. Instead, one of them put his hand on his holster. Karen smiled like she had won. "See, I told you I know the sheriff." That's when Investigator Lewis stepped forward, pulling his own badge. "Funny," he said, "because I work with the sheriff's department, and I've never seen these men in my life." The room froze again. Karen's fake officers stopped moving. Olivia folded her arms. "So, Karen, did you just bring in fake law enforcement too?" Karen didn't answer. Her face said everything. Karen stumbled back a step, her eyes darting between the fake officers and the staring crowd. The two men hesitated, then slowly lowered their hands from their belts. Olivia's voice cut through the silence. "Impersonating law enforcement is a felony. You really want to keep going?" The guards shifted uneasily, as if they suddenly realized they were standing on the wrong side of the law. Karen opened her mouth, but no words came out, just a shaky breath. Investigator Lewis stepped beside Olivia. "Everyone stay seated, no one leaves." The fake officers exchanged a glance, then raised their hands in surrender. One of them muttered, "She said this was legal." Karen's eyes widened. "Shut up!" But it was too late. Olivia turned to Karen. "So first you assault a guest, then you threaten to take private property, and now you bring fake cops? How far were you planning to go?" Karen's voice cracked. "You don't understand. This neighborhood needs control. People break rules, destroy the beauty, lower the value." The old man stepped forward, his voice calm but sharp. "This neighborhood needed community. You turned it into a kingdom where only you had power." His words hit harder than any threat. Some neighbors looked down, ashamed they never spoke up. Karen grabbed the edge of the table like she needed it to stand. "You can't arrest me for trying to protect this place." Olivia's eyes held no softness now. "No, but I can arrest you for assault, harassment, impersonation of authority, and attempted illegal eviction." Karen looked around, desperate, but no one stood with her, not even her board members. Then another twist came. One of the board members, a quiet woman who hadn't spoken all night, stood up. "There's more," she said, her voice trembling. "Karen's been using HOA funds for her own bills, personal bank transfers. We didn't say anything because she threatened to kick us out." Gasps spread across the room like fire. Karen shot her a deadly glare. "You traitor!" Olivia leaned back in her chair, almost like she saw this coming. "Karen, tonight you don't get to control the story anymore." Lewis pulled out a pair of handcuffs, placing them gently on the table. "It's your choice. Walk out on your own, or in cuffs." Karen's chest rose and fell quickly. Her eyes were red, furious, and afraid. But instead of answering, she whispered, "You think this is over? You have no idea what you just started." And for a moment, the room went still again, because no one knew what she meant. Karen's words hung in the air like smoke. No one moved. Even the ticking clock seemed to go quiet. Olivia didn't look shaken, just sharper, more alert. "What do you mean by that?" she asked. Karen didn't answer. She just lifted her chin and whispered, "You think I run this HOA alone?" Before anyone could react, the clubhouse doors swung open again. A tall man in a suit walked in, calm and confident, like he owned the ground he stepped on. I'd seen him once, on a billboard downtown. His name was Mark Holloway, real estate developer and major donor to local elections. He walked straight to Karen's side and said, "That's enough. This meeting is over." Olivia narrowed her eyes. "You don't have authority here," she said. He smirked. "Actually, I do. I funded half the homes in this neighborhood and helped Karen get her position. If she falls, a lot of things come down with her." Neighbors started whispering nervously. Some recognized him, some didn't, but everyone felt the weight shift in the room. Karen looked relieved, like she had been rescued. "You see," she said softly, "it's bigger than you think." Holloway stepped toward Olivia. "How about we forget tonight ever happened? No charges, no lawsuits. You walk away, and everyone stays quiet." Olivia didn't blink. "You're asking me to ignore a crime?" Holloway gave a cold smile. "I'm asking you to be smart. Careers get ruined over things like this." He leaned closer. "Even district attorneys." A chill ran through me. He wasn't threatening her loudly. He was whispering it like a promise. But Olivia just stood up, slowly, and said one line that made the room shift again. "You should have checked who I work with before walking in here." She pulled out her phone and tapped the screen. A voice came on speaker, deep, steady, official. "This is Sheriff Dalton. We're 5 minutes out. Is the situation secure?" Holloway's confidence cracked. Karen's eyes widened. Olivia spoke clearly so everyone could hear. "Yes, Sheriff. And make sure to bring units for fraud, assault, and impersonation. We'll need them." Suddenly, chairs scraped back. Some neighbors stood, unsure whether to stay or run. The fake officers had already moved to a corner, their heads down. Holloway's jaw clenched. "You think calling the sheriff scares me?" Olivia kept her gaze steady. "No, but the federal prosecutor I spoke to earlier might." Karen looked at her like she was seeing her for the first time. Why are you doing this?" she asked, voice weak. Olivia finally answered, quietly but clear. "Because my sister moved into a neighborhood like this 2 years ago. HOA pushed her out. She lost everything. And I promised it wouldn't happen to anyone else again." Outside, we heard sirens in the distance, growing louder. And for the first time, Karen looked truly afraid. The sirens grew louder until red and blue lights flashed across the windows of the clubhouse. Everyone froze as real sheriff deputies stepped inside. Sheriff Dalton himself walked in first, broad shoulders, calm eyes, no hesitation. He nodded at Olivia. "We'll take it from here." Karen stepped back, shaking her head. "Wait, this is a mistake. I was only protecting the neighborhood." Dalton cut her off. By hiring fake cops? By assaulting a district attorney? By misusing HOA funds? Holloway tried to intervene. "Sheriff, let's talk privately. I can make this go away." But Dalton didn't even turn to him. "Mr. Holloway, this is now a criminal investigation. You have the right to remain silent." The room held its breath as deputies moved forward. One pair of cuffs clicked around the wrists of the fake officers, another around the guard who first touched Olivia, and then, slowly, around Karen. She didn't fight. She just stared at the floor, her voice small. "This was my neighborhood." Olivia looked at her and said quietly, "It never belonged to you." Holloway stepped back, chest rising with anger. "You don't know who you're fighting," he hissed. Olivia turned to him. "Maybe, but now the whole county knows who you are." Deputies took him by the arm as well. Some neighbors gasped, some recorded, some just watched with their hands over their mouths. When the last of them were led outside, the room felt different, lighter, quieter. The old man who had revealed the land documents walked up to Olivia. "Thank you," he said, voice low but full of relief. She smiled faintly. "Thank you for speaking when it mattered." I looked at Olivia and finally asked the question stuck in my throat. "Why didn't you tell me who you were from the start?" She gave a small, tired smile. "Because power only means something when you use it for the right reasons. Tonight, it was needed." Neighbors slowly approached, some apologizing, some saying thank you, some promising to rebuild the community the right way. Olivia stepped outside with me. The cool night air felt different, like the weight had lifted. She looked at the flashing lights, the quiet houses, and said, "This is what justice looks like. Not loud, just right." I nodded. "So what happens now?" She took a deep breath. "Now, you live in your home without fear, and I make sure no HOA ever does this again." The sheriff walked over and tipped his hat. "We'll be in touch for statements, but for tonight, you're safe." Olivia glanced back at the neighborhood, her voice soft but firm. "I didn't fight for this county to let people be bullied on their own land." And for the first time in a long time, it felt like home again.